Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. Let's get started and look into the first article. The first article says the enemy of the deep state. Let us try and understand what is this article all about. What is the context? We have the WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange extradition to the United States of America, which has been approved by the UK Home Secretary. In this particular backdrop, we will try and understand what is this issue all about and why are they extraditing from United Kingdom to United States of America. First, we have to understand the meaning of extradition. What is extradition? It allows one country to ask another country to hand over a suspected criminal. In this particular case, Julian Assange happened to be a person who is facing a trial. Where is he? He is in United Kingdom. So United States of America is asking United Kingdom that, dear United Kingdom, please hand over this particular person so that he can face the criminal trial in United States of America. So this extradition is nothing but handing over a person from one country to another. When it comes to the international relationship, what we have is the legal obligations. So countries may have entered into treaties, legal agreements, and it is these legal agreements which enable extradition. When it comes to India, we also have extradition treaty with United Kingdom as well, and one of the cases that we are also pursuing with United Kingdom is in reference to Vijay Mallya. So remember, extradition is nothing but asking one country to allow that person who needs to be criminally prosecuted in another country to send him over to that home country. Then we have something called as the deep state. What is this deep state? This basically means that in a country you would have the government. In the government you would also have people who would have more influence than rest of the people. So it can be the government agency, or it can be certain individuals, or it can be a department or the military. So these people or these agencies which hold a lot of control in that country despite having a government is what is called as the deep state. If we consider Pakistan as a army, the army and the ISI is called as the deep state. You might have the government running the show as well, but behind it you would have all the control manipulations that is being done by the army and the ISI, which is called as the deep state. So basically the deep state is also called as the shadow government. It is also called state within a state, where you would have certain agency controlling some of the important secret agencies or secret manipulations in that particular country. Why are we discussing about deep state? We will understand that eventually. What is this controversy all about? Why is there an extradition from United Kingdom to United States of America? We have to go back to the background. Julian Assange is an Australian editor, publisher and activist who founded WikiLeaks in 2006. What is this WikiLeaks? As the very name denotes, you have a word called as leaks. So if there is an individual who can be a journalist, he can be an activist, or he can be a whistleblower as well. If this particular person has a data which is very important from the government's perspective, but that document or the legal framework is also important from the public interest point of view. So there is a particular document which is secret in nature, but then you have the journalist who leaks this information to the general public because there is a larger human interest that is taken into picture. So what is happening here? You have the journalists, you have the activists, you have other individuals or the whistleblowers who take up some of the important government data. They pick it up, they may hack it or get it from any of the sources, and ultimately leak this government data on an open platform, which ultimately will have the larger public interest into picture. So this WikiLeaks happens to be a non-profit organization that publishes all news leaks, classified information by some of the anonymous sources. People would not know who leaked this information, but they will get this information and ultimately leak it in the open platform. So when we consider WikiLeaks, this is nothing but a website, this is nothing but a library, this is nothing but a repository of some of the information which the government had but currently being leaked by the journalists, activists or the whistleblowers. News and classified information could be uploaded on WikiLeaks using the anonymity software Tor, which protects the uploader's identity from being eavesdropped on any network and even by the WikiLeaks itself. So what exactly happened? Back in the year 2006, we had Julian Assange who came up with WikiLeaks, and as a result you had number of people who were leaking information about some of the government documents, and in this case there was a larger picture of human interest that was taken into picture. In the year 2010, something else was happening. What was that? One of the earliest revelations by WikiLeaks was on how the United States of America's government had been deploying practices at Guantanamo Bay facility holding terror suspects that were in violation of the Geneva Convention protocols. So this WikiLeaks happened to reveal one of the information. What was this information about? This was the way United States of America treated the war criminals. This was about United States of America, how it violated the Geneva Convention protocols. So when we speak about the Geneva Convention, it is nothing but a treaty as to how to treat the civilians, prisoners of war and soldiers. So according to this leak, it went on to said that United States of America did not respect some of the human rights. It disrespected the ethical value system of the people, and it did not treat civilians, prisoners of war and the soldiers with humanity. And ultimately all these data with respect to United States of America was leaked. Millions of classified files from the US Defense Department on the Iraq and Afghan invasions were all leaked as well. And in fact they had also leaked one of the video as well, and this particular video showed that helicopter crew firing indiscriminately and killing civilians, and there were number of people who were killed as well. So these were the videos that were leaked, and this ultimately perpetuates that the human right violations committed by United States of America. So what these WikiLeaks did, it exposed the human right violations and ultimately said to the world that United States of America speaks great about human rights, but its defense mechanisms and its defense personnel continue to perpetuate human right violations. So all that WikiLeaks was able to show is the possible war crimes, torture, secret military operations, that which was ultimately thrown open to the people to see. It is in this particular backdrop he is wanted in United States of America. So the US government wants him in connection with respect to 18 charges for violating the Espionage Act, the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, and it said that all the information that has been leaked on the WikiLeaks illegally have endangered one, the security of United States of America, and at the same time people who are working for the United States of America. So United States of America feels that the WikiLeaks, whose founder happened to leak all this information, has threatened the security of United States of America. So all the charges with respect to Espionage Act, Computer Fraud and Abuse Act have been imposed on this particular person. Now the question is, how was he able to escape the extradition from United Kingdom? He's been staying in United Kingdom for a very long time. Despite staying in United Kingdom, how was he not prosecuted? Why was he not extradited from United Kingdom to United States of America? This is where we have to understand something called as the diplomatic asylum. Back in the year 2012, what does he do? He goes to the Ecuador embassy and he requests the Ecuador embassy to give him shelter in the diplomatic mission. So basically, he sought asylum in 2012 in the embassy, fearing US prosecution. He stayed there in the Ecuador embassy for a long period of time because he felt that he was the victim of human rights abuses, and if he is extradited to United States of America, his life could also be under threat, which is why he goes to Ecuador and he also seeks for the diplomatic asylum. We have Article 14 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which states that everyone has the right to seek and to enjoy in other countries asylum from the persecution. And in this particular case, he did not go to another country. He was present in United Kingdom, but what he sought was the diplomatic asylum. What do we understand by diplomatic asylum? Let's consider a country. Every country also has embassies. Let's say, for example, if you are considering India, we have the Embassy of United States of of America, where in India, in New Delhi, we also have other countries' embassy, let's say for example Germany embassy, or it can be France embassy, which is usually situated in the national capital. So this person, Julian Assange, was given diplomatic immunity. What is the advantage of diplomatic immunity? What we have to look into is Article 22 of the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations. When we look into this Article 22, it points out the premises of the mission shall be inviolable. The agents of the receiving state may not enter them except with the consent of the head of the mission. The receiving state is under a special duty to take all appropriate steps to protect the premises of the mission against any intrusion or damage, and to prevent any disturbance of the peace of the mission or impairment of its dignity. The premises of the mission, their furnishings and other property thereon, and the means of transport of the mission shall be immune from search, requisition, attachment or execution. So what do we have? It says the premises of the mission shall be inviolable, which basically means that this person, Julian Assange, was present in the embassy of Ecuador, which was present in United Kingdom. So since he was given the diplomatic immunity, even the local police officers could not have entered the embassy. Why? Because the embassy is inviolable. So the local police or the security forces are not permitted to enter any embassy unless they have been given permission by the head of the embassy. So during 2012, he enters the embassy and the head of the Ecuadorian embassy does not give permission, and he stays there in the embassy of Ecuador for about 7 years. But only in the 2019, this permission which was granted to him was ultimately pulled off. That is because Ecuador withdraws the protection for Assange. That is because he tried to destabilize Ecuador's government, flouting the conditions of the stay, and this meant that all the conditions that was imposed on him was not kept up, and in the year 2019 the diplomatic asylum that was given to him was withdrawn. The minute this diplomatic asylum was withdrawn, he was immediately arrested by the UK police, and from then the trials are on. After the trials were conducted, now we have the UK Home Secretary who has given permission for extradition from United Kingdom to United States of America. Now what we have to understand is the impact that WikiLeaks has been able to imprint across the global countries. If we look into the impact, the WikiLeaks model using cryptographic tools to protect sources and allowing for anonymous leaks of sensitive information that could also be in public interest to be published suddenly brought forth a new model of extensive investigative journalism into areas that relatively shielded from the public eye, such as the functioning of the deep state in democratic societies and the operation of power agencies in autocracies. So with these WikiLeaks in picture, you had number of journalists who opened up themselves. They started finding out and entering new areas as well. Ultimately, if they had some of the documents which had perpetuated corruption, which was not in line with the human rights and for the larger interest of the human interest, these people took up the investigative journalism and ultimately gave all these papers on the public forum. So even the deep state, which was initially not accessible, such data was also collected and was thrown open to the public to view what was happening with their government. In the present situation, what we have is that because of the extradition, all of these achievements that have had will ultimately come to a collapse. So what are the concerns raised by number of authorities? Numerous organizations have campaigned for the Assange release. They do not want extradition from United Kingdom to United States of America. So we have Amnesty International, Reporters Without Borders, Human Rights Watch and International Federation of Journalists who have said that extradition should not happen from United Kingdom to United States of America. The indictment raises important questions about the protection of those that publish classified information in the public interest, including those that expose human right violations. So basically, this could have a chilling effect on the media. Journalists in the near future may not give such information and ultimately hamper the press in performing its tasked as the surveyor of information, public watchdog in the democratic societies. Extradition may also lead to real risk of torture or inhuman or degrading treatment in United States of America, and the United Kingdom ruling would undermine the role of journalists across the world in bringing governments to the account as well. In fact, when you consider this whole saga that has happened in the present situation, it also violates US Constitution's First Amendment as well. How? When we speak about the First Amendment of United States of America, it basically guarantees freedom of press. So in this particular case, we had Julian Assange and other people who gave out information. So this is about journalistic freedom. Since United States of America may convict this person if extradited, this is also violating US Constitution's First Amendment are some of the concerns with respect to this issue. Added to it, we have something called as the megaphone diplomacy, which is another word. What is this megaphone diplomacy? This basically means that you have diplomats from two countries who issue threatening statements in order to make another country fall in line with it. So when it comes to megaphone diplomacy, these are the public statements issued by the diplomats. So if two countries have a dispute, they do not enter into a negotiation back channel, but instead both these parties issue threats directly in the form of press statements so that the other country falls in line with it. So they may be in the form of press statements, they may be in the form of social media posts, or it might be releases or announcement. Ideally, it should have happened on a closed door, but making use of these threats on an open platform is what is called as megaphone diplomacy. Why are we discussing this? As I initially discussed, Julian Assange happens to be an Australian. So in this particular case, will United States of America listen to Australia, or will Australia issue some of the threats to United States of America, or will it issue public statements regarding this entire dispute is what we have to wait and watch. But as of now, Australia has said that it won't conduct any megaphone diplomacy on Julian Assange because there are a number of people who are asking Australia to intervene, but Australia may not intervene and may not engage in megaphone diplomacy is what we have to understand. So the practice of making strong or threatening statements in order to make another country fall in line with it is what is called as megaphone diplomacy. In this particular issue, what we have to wait and watch is whether United Kingdom will expedite this person from United Kingdom to United States of America. If it is done so, this may ultimately be a death nail to the principles of journalism is what is this article all about. Now let's look into the next article. This article says Russia's gateway to global waters. Let us try and understand what is this article all about. We have one of the important treaties called as the Treaty of Karnaka. What is this treaty all about? This was signed back in the year 1774. This was a treaty that was signed between the Russian Empire and the Ottoman Empire, which brought to an end the Russo-Turkish War of the 1768 to 74. This particular treaty also marked the beginning of the decline of the Ottoman Empire. It also ended undisputed control of the Ottoman Empire on the Black Sea. So remember, on one side, the power of the Ottoman Empire declined with this particular treaty, and at the same time, Ottoman Empire had an undisputed control on the Black Sea, and this was eventually reduced, and Russia got access to the Black Sea through the Kerch as well as the Azov seaports. So the treaty's commercial provisions gave Russia the right to establish consulates anywhere in the Ottoman Empire, to navigate freely in the Ottoman waters through the Straits of Bosphorus as well as Dardanelles, and to enjoy the commercial privileges in the Ottoman lands. Another important update happened in the year 1783. In 1783, 9 years after the treaty was signed, Prince Grigory, a Grand Admiral in the Imperial Russian Army and a favorite Empress Catherine, annexed the Crimean Peninsula in the name of protecting Christians amidst violent clashes between Christians and the Crimean Tatars. So what we have to draw is a logical conclusion. What is this logical conclusion? In 1783, Crimea was annexed. In 2014, Crimea was once again annexed. So can we draw a parallel? 1783, Crimea was annexed because the king wanted to make sure the Christians are protected. Similarly, in the 2014 episode, Russia wanted to protect the so-called Russian-speaking people, and as a result, it it annexes Crimea. So what we can draw is a similar parallel from the past to the present. Now what we have to consider in this article is the geo-economic reasons. Why is Black Sea very important for Russia, and why has Russia invaded Ukraine in the present situation? How much of it is captured by Russia is what we have to understand. When you look into this particular map, what Russia has been able to do, it has invaded Ukraine and it has captured some of the important seaports. You have number of important seaports like Mariupol. We also have Kherson as well. We also have the Sea of Azov coast and some of the important cities like Betsana, Kherson, so on and so forth. All these important port cities have been captured, and these port cities ultimately have access to the Black Sea. So this article currently goes on to say that Black Sea is very important for Russia when it comes to geo-economic reasons. What are these reasons? When we consider Russia, we have the Arctic region. The Arctic region also provides access to Russia, but this opening that Russia has to the Arctic region will have its own share of economic advantages, but it does not have much of geopolitical advantages. Yes, it directly connects. They would be able to extract oil, they would be able to extract fishing from this particular area, but this restricts its outreach to the world. It will not be able to travel and connect to multiple other countries. For Russia to connect to multiple other countries, what it requires is the access to the Black Sea. Since it has been able to capture some of the important ports of Ukraine, it will have uninterrupted control on the Black Sea as well. Its gateway to the global waters in the Black Sea, which opens into the Mediterranean Sea through the Turkey-controlled Bosphorus as well as the Dardanelles state. Where do we have it? We have this particular state called as the Dardanelles state, and we also have the Bosphorus state. So what Russia would be able to do, since it has taken control of some of the key ports, it would be able to send all its vessels, even exports, through this Black Sea, enter these two states and ultimately reach the Mediterranean Sea and large other countries. Currently, Russia's only naval base outside the former Soviet territories is based in Syria's status in the Mediterranean Sea. While Russia sees Mediterranean Sea as NATO-dominated waters, it has also sought to enhance its presence in the region in recent years. So from a geopolitical point of view, it's imperative for Moscow to retain its hold over the Black Sea to remain an influential naval power. What does this mean? Russia sees Mediterranean as largely NATO dominated, but it hopes to capture some of the opportunities. It wants to have a political, economic and military inroads into this particular area, and in the near future, Russia also eyes opportunity to expand its influence in the Mediterranean countries like Cyprus, Egypt, Libya, Turkey, so on and so forth. As of now, it believes that the Mediterranean Sea is where NATO is dominating. But now, since it has access to the larger area in the near future, it may also get multiple other countries into its control, says Russia. The Black Sea is also a vital economic artery for Russia to export its hydrocarbons and grains to Turkey as well as the Asian market. Since it has control on some of the key ports, it will also be able to export oil as well as other agricultural commodities. We also have another important convention called as the Montreal Convention. The Montreal Convention regarding the regime of the Straits, or simply known as Montreal Convention, is an international agreement that governs the use of Bosphorus and Dardanelles Strait in Turkey. It guarantees passage for all civilian vessels during the times of peace. It also gives Turkey the authority to limit the passage of navies of those countries who do not border the Black Sea. What is this convention? This convention was signed back in the year 1936. What is this convention all about? When you look into this part of the Black Sea, you have this particular state which is controlled by Turkey. Then you have another state where Turkey is controlling it. So those countries which are on the Black Sea may not be able to enter the Mediterranean Sea. So they entered into an agreement where they said that all those Black Sea countries would be able to enter this strait and Turkey will not have any issues. It will allow the commercial and military vessels in and out of this water. So the convention bans non-Black Sea countries, aircraft carriers and submarines from entering this water, but it allows the Black Sea countries to operate in this particular region. The article further makes a mention of control of the Soviet Union. When we look into the control of the Soviet Union earlier, Russia had dominated the Black Sea, which was then dubbed by many as the Soviet Lake. Ukraine and Georgia were the Soviet republics. Bulgaria and Romania, two other Black Sea basin states, were part of the Soviet-led Eastern Bloc. The only country that was out of the Soviet sphere in the Black Sea region during the Cold War happened to be Turkey, which was a NATO member. But after the disintegration of the Soviet Union in the late 1990s, balance of power in the Black Sea shifted in favor of NATO. Bulgaria and Romania became NATO members in 2004. Ukraine and Georgia were offered membership in 2008. If they had also joined NATO, Russia would have faced an arc of NATO coast in the gateway to the global waters. But in 2008, Russia made a military intervention in Georgia, practically ending the country's NATO dream. And in 2014, by annexing Crimea, Russia did not only derail Ukraine's NATO plans but also reasserted its hold over its southern waters. So basically, this article clearly goes on to say that Russia, when it needed, has made an intervention to protect its own balance of power in the Black Sea. We have to wait and watch where this Russia invasion of Ukraine will end and how much control will Russia take in the near future from Ukraine. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says Amrit Sarovar mission could boost infrastructure projects. Let us try and understand what is this article all about. Let's look into the statistics. The Niti Aayog says around 60 crore people in India could face high and extreme water stress. About 3/4 of the households in India do not have drinking water at their premise and rely on unsafe sources of water. Nearly 70% of the available water is contaminated and major rivers are also dying as well. According to the most recent study of the Central Groundwater Board, as many as 256 out of 700 districts in India have reported critical or overexploited groundwater levels. In rural India, 80 to 90% of the drinking water needs are fulfilled by the groundwater resources. What is more worrisome is the groundwater levels in India declined by over 60% between 2007 and 17, and of the extracted water, almost 90% is used in the agriculture. According to a report by the Central Pollution Control Board, cities are home to 36% of India's population but account for 70% of the water pollution. So what we see is water deficiency in India. In order to make sure that we conserve the water for the future, we have the Prime Minister of India who had launched a new initiative called as Mission Amrit Sarovar. So what is this mission all about? This mission is basically aimed at developing about 75 water bodies in each district of the country as part of Azadi Ki Amrit Mahotsav. So basically this will lead to a creation of more than 50,000 water bodies, and this will ultimately help in conservation of the water. How will this be implemented? The mission has been launched with the whole of the government approach, in which 6 ministries or departments, namely Department of Rural Development, Department of Land Resources, Department of Drinking Water and Sanitation, Department of Water Resources, Ministry of Panchayati Raj, Ministry of Forest, Environment and Climate Change, all get included. Also, Bhaskaracharya National Institute for Space Application and Geoinformatics have been engaged as technical partner for the mission. The mission works through the states and the districts through refocusing of various schemes such as Mahatma Gandhi Manrega. We have the 15th Finance Commission grants. We have the PMKSY sub-schemes such as the Watershed Development Component, Har Khet Ko Pani, besides state-owned schemes as well. So what we require is the cooperation from the state governments. What we require is the cooperation from the district authorities as well as the local authorities. Apart from the government contributing, it has also asked people to contribute as well, non-government resources to contribute as well. So it is not just the government which is taking up the initiative, but you also have the non-governmental organizations as well as the mobilization of the citizens for its effective participation. Added to it, to further give impetus to this entire mission, we also have the local freedom fighters, their family members, martyrs family members, Padma awardees, citizens of importance in that particular area, who are all being asked to engage in this conservation program. Since water is a state subject, we also require the constant support of the state government. So the states have been requested to form the Water Structure Users Association and impart all the necessary training for the better development of these Amrit Sarovars. So the government of India has also requested the states to come up with the technology upgradation, come up with the technology planning for the water conservation so that we ultimately conserve water in all these districts. It is this that we have to understand with respect to this article. Now let's look into the next article. This article says new species of bamboo dwelling bat found in Meghalaya. The article here is speaking about discovery of one of the species. There are two important pointers from the preliminary examination point of view. One is Nongkilam Wildlife Sanctuary. Where is it? It is in Raiboi district of Meghalaya. So remember, the Nongkilam Wildlife Sanctuary is present in Raiboi district of Meghalaya. The next is in reference to the species, and the species is called by the name Gliscropus meghalayanus. Why is it called as Meghalayanus? That is because it was discovered in Meghalaya, which is why the state has also been given as part of its name. So remember, this happens to be a new species of bamboo dwelling bat. What do we understand by bamboo dwelling bats? These are the particular kind of bats living in the internodes of bamboos with specialized morphological characters that help them to adapt to life inside a bamboo. The present discovery is the first report of a thick thumbed bat not only from India but also from South Asia. If you look into the characteristics, what does it have? The newly discovered species is small in size and also has a dark brown color with sulfur yellow belly, and these are some of the characteristics with respect to this species. The nomenclature of the newly discovered species Gliscrophus meghalensis celebrates the state of Meghalaya where the new species was found. Remember, these are some of the important factual data which can be important from the preliminary examination point of view. Now let's look into the mains practice question. Julian Assange's extradition from UK to US approved by Home Secretary would undermine the role of journalists across the world in bringing governments to account. Critically examine. Black Sea is critical for Russia for geo-economic reasons. Comment. So please write all your answers on the comment section. Peer review. Do give positive feedback to your friends' answers. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.